experiencing something today that is part of the Kundalini experience that is crazy, but you probably need to know. So I go to work, and I actually have all kinds of crazy things kind of happening, like my scanner, even though I scan packages and they show up on my scanner, suddenly when I get to the address, then the package isn't there in the scanner, and I have to input all this information about the address. And so I had a lot of that kind of happening today, and then it's happened before. It's energy flux. I don't know if it's caused by anything of the ego or evil, or if it is just energy. You know, it's just maybe there was some solar flare or some residual energy. I try not to energize evil too much, but sometimes it's present. So anyway, so I kind of had this crazy little day. Although I got off at noon, 12:30, something like that, I went and washed my truck. Anytime anything is dirty, laundry, it's safer to wash several times a week, if not daily. I have to take out my trash daily, which I don't have much trash, but I have to wash my car, and just anything I have, it must be clean. It must be as clean as possible. Otherwise, there is just negative energy, and I get the wrong messages. So anyway, so I washed the FedEx van inside and out. Also, if anyone, this is so dumb, but if anyone does any work on the vehicle, like if you have the tires changed or rotated, then I have to wash the vehicle, because whoever touches it, then it kind of absorbs some of their energy. I don't know if it's like that in the real world, but it's like that here. So anyway, so they put in a new camera system, and it's much, much better. You can, before the camera on the back of the truck, you could only see right at the very back end. Now you can see the entire back area. That's not important. But I had to wash the van inside and out, because they had just done some upgrading of camera equipment on the truck. And anyway, so I had all of this energy happening today around me that is not of me. It's just, either it's of God, it's of evil, it's just of the ego, it's just maybe a solar flare, something like that. I'm saying that twice because I need to stress that it isn't just one thing. It could be multiple things happening, and I just feel and experience the energy. Like the traffic is really loud and heavier traffic than is normal, even for tourist season in this area. So anyway, so I go out of town and I come back into town, because that flips the energy kind of. It changes the energy of the town. And things calmed down a little bit, but it's just like, you know, you do your normal work, and then I have all of this other dynamics of energy around me that I have to deal with that is unnatural. So apparently, I was coming to some kind of a cosmic doorway, and in one of my previous videos I said I was explaining the Qabalah and how the cosmic path is parallel to the Qabalah. And so because I've been here so long, they've actually folded space, time and space, and so I am doing the Qabalah at the exact same time I'm doing the cosmic path, which sounds really kind of confusing, I know. But for a while I was doing the cosmic path, and I'll explain that in just a moment. And then I would go to a certain location like the ranch, and it would flip kind of the energy dynamics, and I would be doing the Qabalah path. Well, now I'm actually doing both simultaneously. So it's a little difficult. I ignore most of it, but I'm still aware of it, and they make me aware of it. So when I don't know where I am, or if I'm unsure of the placings of this path work, then they'll show me something that is either the Kabbalah symbolism, such as the numbers 4, or mercy, or something like that. Or they showed me a cosmic constellation. So the cosmic path of the sun is actually path working that is depicted in the Egyptian Dendor zodiac. And you see all these characters, these people and a few animals, and they're kind of in a circle, and they spiral into the center, and then they show like a pole, and then they have this person kind of separate, I guess, at the top. So what that actually represents is the cosmic path. So the gate of men is kind of at the club of Orion, and then across from like the twins. So that's the gate of men. And then you have the gate of God, which is on the other side of the cosmic sphere, which is the tail, the sting of the scorpion, or the arrow of Sagittarius, pointing to the center. And those are actually cosmic doorways. When you have awakened Kundalini and you are doing this soul path work. So the ego wants to put me back through the gate of men, and God wants me to go to God through the gate of God. So it's the golden gate and the silver gate. So I'm always being tugged on the ego trying to pull me back to the gate of men, through the gate of men, and then there's God trying to maneuver me and move me away from the gate of men and around to the gate of God. So on top of working and trying to be a normal person, I have to continuously deal with those energies. And like I said, I'm actually doing double, so I'm also doing the Kabbalah on top of it. Whew, my days are very exhausting. Anyway, about 75% of the time, I ignore most of it. But like today, when they were really, really trying to pull me back through the gate of men, and I did not go through the gate of men, then you have to deal with, okay, so this is a Minoan depiction and also a Spanish depiction. Then as I move up the cosmic path of the sun path, then I move up to Taurus, the charging bull. The charging bull is this serious, intense, yucky, loud, intense energy. Cars are going fast. They may be really aggressive towards me. There may be some kind of really mean people like coming at me, and I literally, like the Minoans, have to maneuver around the charging bull. The Minoan friezes and sculptures actually depict them acrobatically jumping over the bull, but it's not beautiful like that at all. It's traumatic, and the energy is just really overwhelmingly sensory intense. So then I have to maneuver around the charging bull. Now the charging bull could be a moose, it could be a buffalo, it could be a rhino, it could be a cow, a bull, anything relating to a bull elk, depending on the season, they use as a symbol of the charging bull. And then I continue up the path, and so then if you were to follow the path, you would get up to the Pleiades, which is an arrow. It's actually an arrow, and that arrow is pointing the way, and it's pointing the way up along the pathwork. So, so the constellations for each planet and the mythological and symbolic meanings to them are very important. All 108 of them, or however many you have, not 88 according to NASA's rewrite, but all of them that have been discovered, because as you do the path work, so as you continue up, there's also two sides. So you have the twin side and you have the charging bull side, or the Taurus side, and so depending if I cross a bridge and come back, which side I'm doing. So I might go up the twin side and then do, say, Aruga, I think it's Aruga, and then the Queen and Cepheus, and I continue up kind of the royal side, or I may kind of take a fork and go towards I don't have a chart in front of me. I really should have that in front of me so I can tell you the correct constellations, but you can look at the Milky Way and you can see the two sides and the pictures that are depicted on both sides, and so those are actually cosmic pathworks for Kundalini soul, Kundalini awakened soul. And then you also spiral down. So when you come up kind of over the top, there's either the dragon or there's Polaris, and you can sphere separate at that particular point and pop up the top, or you can continue down and around the Milky Way, the river of life is what it's called. And so if you continue down the river of life, then there are constellations in the center, like the Fawn, and there's a person or something that NASA has removed. And it's like, I'm stressing this because it's really important, because you actually have those animals or those symbolisms manifest around you, and if you don't know that that's part of the constellations, then you miss it. You also need to be aware of the southern constellations if you're in the northern hemisphere. Likewise, if you're in the southern hemisphere and you awaken Kundalini, you need to be aware of the northern hemisphere constellations. So at the bottom, there is the pictograph, and there is like a beautiful bird. Sometimes they call it a parrot, sometimes they call it a dodo bird or something. I don't know. There's different pictures, but what happens around you is it's suddenly a really beautiful bird, like an oriole, which is yellow and orange and black, and they're really, really beautiful. For this area, will manifest, and I will see it and go, wow, what a beautiful bird. Well, it is a beautiful bird, but it's also a sign on the cosmic path that says I am spiraling to the bottom. So spiraling to the bottom, and then you have like octans, which is another arrow, which is pointing towards the portal to the bottom. So in my journals, I actually graphed all of this, and I show the arrows, because you can take a different route. You may be going up towards the gate of men. You may be going up towards past Orion and up to the club, and then you may be inspired, or you may just decide not to go somewhere, and you actually turn around and you start to come back down. Well, then you continue to come down the path. So that means you go past the barking dogs and the rabbit, and you continue the spiral. You can take a fork and go right or left and go, say, towards Pisces and Virgo, or you may take the fork and go towards Monoceros, and so the kite, I saw the kite last night. Someone was like windsurfing, I guess, and they were doing it with a big kite. And so a kite represents the kite constellation. So it's important. This was pre-Kundalini awakening work when I said that I learned a lot about the constellations. I had to study and become familiar, not memorize them entirely, but become familiar with them, because I may turn and take a different route. And then I will know, based upon some of the symbols, some of the events and items that I see, that I'm going a different direction. So, anyway, today, I can actually talk to my environment and say, I don't understand what you're saying, I can't understand what you're saying. And I get feedback from my environment. And so I have established codes of communication, very simple, like 1, 2. And 1 is no, 2 is yes. And but at the end it flips, and so then 1 becomes yes and 2 becomes no. And so I get confused, because sometimes they confuse me and say, oh, it's the end, when it isn't an ending point. And then I'm reading the wrong signs. Or car lights. Car lights may be illumined, and I'll see 2 cars together, and the first car doesn't have their lights on, but the second car does have their lights on, and that means yes. So it's kind of a game, but it's not. And it was my way of trying to establish communication before I had God talking in my head. And so that only came about in the past 4 years. The first, I just kind of rambled along. I had no idea what I was doing or where I was going or what was even happening. And there were a lot of bad things that happened. And that was because the super ego is light and dark. So it can be good, and then it can be Satan. As dark as you can get. And the ego is usually more gentle and kind, but it also has a shadow and light aspect to it. And so there's a lot to deal with continuously. And in the ancient days, they had what they called the mystery schools, I think is what they were, and they taught this stuff. So people who were awakening Kundalini understood the underworld, the overworld, the middle world, the ego, the different aspects and dynamics of this. And I don't have a manual. There isn't one. There probably is one in the Vatican, in the vaults of the Vatican, but good luck getting them to open up and tell you that Mary is the goddess and give you the journals that depict that. But, so I am guided, but there's a lot of non-guidance, and that's part of almost every day. So when I say I'm having a blah day, it's not your kind of a blah day. It's soul work that really I don't feel is related to my soul anymore. They keep trying to get me out of here, but it's not working. One, because God says it's not done, I guess, and 2, because I don't listen to the ego. When I figure out it's the ego trying to guide me, then I just kind of shut down. and I just come back to my apartment, and like I had bugs on the front of the car, so I was being told, go to the store, go to the store, go to the store. Well, when I went to the post office first, because I went there once this morning, so I have to go there twice in one day. So I saw these bugs on the front, and I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to go to the store if my car's dirty. So then I went and washed my car, even though I washed it this morning, and I washed the van. So yeah, $3 to $5 a pop. I spend a lot of money washing, which is just such a waste. It's such a waste. God, there's so much waste here. You really wouldn't believe it. But I don't know. I guess they don't care. So anyway, the constellations are representative of attaining certain movement along the cosmic path. And I think if you start to look at it, if you look at a chart, a sphere of the constellations around the planet Earth, or whatever planet you're from, you will see arrows pointing the way. And you will see that they are aligned in a very specific pattern. And then just like a road, you can hang a right. But then if you hang a right as you're coming, up the Milky Way, then you have to know you're going to avoid the gate of man, and instead you may take the lower path, which is towards Virgo and Aquarius, and the big sea monster or whatever, or you may, instead of going on up to the pole, you may take the higher road and go towards Taurus, and then you have to avoid the really intense energies. So at the gate of God, which is the scorpion sting and Sagittarius arrow, so they point to the gate of God, which is a doorway, which does take you to God. It's like going through the Qabalah and popping up the top. It's like through the pyramid and vaporizing, even though you still have your body, and going up to God. If you go through the gate of God by the scorpion sting, then it's pretty mild now. In the early days when my frequency was lower, then the sting would actually kill me and debilitate me and put me on the ground. I would be in all kinds of pain. And I didn't really die. It's a spiritual thing. But if I go through, if I'm circling and I'm on the right side, and I go through Sagittarius and I follow the arrow, then I don't know, it's mild. There's not really anything. Maybe a shift, or they may activate the Merkaba. So all of the constellations, the desk at the bottom, when I come to that point, then I'm usually inspired to write, say a blog, or I write more information in my journals, or rather than just kind of note-taking. All of the constellations are important and meaningful for someone who has awakened Kundalini and doing the soul journey to God, to their own divinity. And it's really important that all of the constellations be included and not removed by NASA or anyone else who just doesn't seem to understand what they're for. Because, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I learned them, and then I've kind of referred back to them on occasion during this experience. Sometimes it's a nightmare. And sometimes it's blissful beyond your imagination. So anyway, that's all that I really wanted to share, is that I was dealing with that today, and so I thought, well, maybe I should make a short video that explains the cosmic and the Kabbalah path, that they have folded the cosmos where I am, so I'm actually doing both. So what that means is that I may be at the gate of God at, say, Sagittarius Arrow, which is also the top of the Kabbalah. And so then you can, kind of get a feel for, like Pisces with the fish swimming in alternate directions would be a symbol of yin yang, the heart of God. So you can kind of get a feel for how the constellations are laid over the Kabbalah, and how it is the flower of life. It is creation in motion continuously. And you may think it's great. After 13 years, I don't really think it's all that great. I get kind of sick of it, quite frankly. And it's like, oh gosh, not that again. But then there are good things that happen along the way, like when I get on the net. So the fishes and loaves in the net. If I get on the net, then there's like 3 or 4 days of just abundant gifts, like super discounts at the store. I get all kinds of gifts offered, not necessarily presents, but maybe something I've been wanting, a job promotion, or some really nice people after dealing with some really unkind people. The gifts vary. Maybe I get extra fuel points that week when I grocery shop. Maybe someone gives me a gift, like, oh, here, I ordered too many flowers, so here's some flowers for you, or something like that. So you get gifts on the net. And it's the light net, and there's also a dark net. And so the dark side, the shadow side, which is the ego side, which is not necessarily evil. It can be, but there are also good ones. I have some good ones in my ego. Then they also give gifts. So they're usually of a lesser caliber, but nonetheless, the net is a time of receiving gifts. The valley is along Serpens, the constellation of the water snake. Serpens kind of going down. That is considered the valley of the shadow of death or something like that. I don't know. I don't really get into all that too much. To me, it's either the light or the dark. There's no shadow of death. I'm still here. I'm still alive. I eat and pee and drink and talk and all of that. So I don't really energize that too much. But to me, it's either good or bad. And I don't see a lot of gray anymore. I see a lot of gray, but like I said, I've been doing this for so long that in the beginning you're like, oh wow, like, hey, I'm at the Queen, and so everyone treats you like a queen. Everyone bows their head, and and you're like, oh, well, that's your ego. You're kind of like, at first I was like, why are they doing that? And then it was like, oh, because I'm at the constellation of Cassiopeia, and so they're all honoring me as the queen, even though it's just dumb. But I didn't design it, and I often tell them my opinion, and they don't really want to know that. But like I said, there's some really magical and beautiful aspects to this also. Like, all of the gifts when you're on the net. Walking on water, Jesus didn't walk on water, sorry to disillusion you, but it refers to crossing the cosmic ocean and not diving underneath. So like I can eat salmon, or like say dirty rice, not dirty rice, but like brown rice. Rice is considered really watery, and anyway, so if I eat those foods, then I will actually go under the ocean, which there's good things at the bottom too, but the spiritual ocean, that if I don't eat those types of things as I'm crossing the ocean, so if I like eat a lot of salty food, I will somehow get on the cosmic ocean and I will be walking on water. I will stay walking across the ocean. But if I were to eat, say, salmon, or the only thing I can really think of that makes me do that is salmon or rice, and then I'll actually get a sensation like a pressure on my chest. I guess it'd be like the oceanic pressure. And I have to lay on the couch, like with my feet up on the top of the couch, so that I invert that pressurization. And if I dive too fast, so I have to eat like shrimp. If I dive too fast, if I'm sinking too fast, I ate too much of that kind of food, then I will actually get a feeling in my lungs where it hurts to breathe, which would be comparable to the bends, having like air bubbles in your lungs or something like that. I don't dive, so I don't know, but anyway, so all of these cosmic path symbols and processes are part of the awakened Kundalini soul journey. There's so much. There's just so much to it. I've been doing it, like I said, for like 13 years, and I can't think of it all right now, but that'll give you some clues as to what the constellations actually mean, why they are there, why the constellations at your planet are there, and all of them do have arrows along the path somewhere, or they are aligned in such a manner that you have a left and a right side,